There's
Ever heard a
something
song
everyone
so
needs to
sharp
know
it doesn't
before
just
this
stop a
goes any
wedding?
further.
It detonates a whole
That
empire?
man is
Stay
the
with me,
father of
because
my
this starts
child.
as pure humiliation and ends as the kind of public reckoning no amount of money can buy your way out of. The Grand Hotel Metropolitan glowed like it was built to host legends, not people, with chandeliers dripping light over marble floors and flower arrangements so tall they looked like they needed structural permits. Backstage, though, the air was tighter hot lights, perfume, hairspray, nerves, and the low buzz of staff moving fast to meet impossible expectations. That's where Camila Rodriguez stood, 7 months pregnant, holding a microphone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She wore a simple black dress she'd borrowed from her sister because the vendor dressing room didn't exactly inspire confidence, cramped, windowless, tucked away like an afterthought behind the grand halls where the rich and powerful were already sipping champagne and admiring themselves. And then Isabella Stevens walked in like she owned oxygen. Diamond tiara, dress worth more than most people's yearly salary. Friends trailing her like satellites, all of them dressed in designer labels and smug certainty. Isabella didn't even need to raise her voice. She leaned in close, smiling like a knife wrapped in satin, and whispered, "I hope you know your place here." She adjusted her tiara with 2 fingers like she was correcting the universe. "You're here to serve, not to draw attention to yourself. Do you understand?" Camila met her gaze calmly, the kind of calm that doesn't come from weakness, but from endurance. "I understand perfectly," she said. Isabella frowned, not because the words were unexpected, but because Camila wasn't giving her the reaction she came to collect. What Isabella didn't know was that she'd just flipped a switch in a woman who'd spent months being pushed, underestimated, erased, and who still had one weapon Isabella couldn't buy, bribe, or...
Her voice. 3 hours earlier, Camila thought she'd found a miracle. A dream job had appeared right when she needed money the most, an offer to sing at an exclusive wedding for a fee high enough to cover prenatal care, rent, and the groceries she'd been rationing like she was running a survival budget. She didn't question it at first because when you're drowning, you don't interrogate the hand that pulls you up. But then Patricia, the event planner, made a mistake during a phone call. "The bride specifically insisted on you," Patricia said, distracted, not realizing Camila could hear her. "She said she knows your work personally." Camilla's stomach dropped so hard it felt like she'd missed a step on a staircase. Because there was only one bride on that calendar with that kind of money, that kind of venue, that kind of obsession with control. Isabella Stevens. The woman who had taken David Camila's husband during the worst moment of Camila's life, right after Camila lost her job and right after she discovered she was pregnant. The woman who was about to marry the father of Camila's child in a $2 million ceremony staged like a magazine cover. Camila remembered the way David ended it, not with a conversation, not with a face-to-face apology, but with a text message that felt like an eviction notice for her entire life. "I can't take this life anymore. Isabella offers me a future you could never give me." 6 years of marriage reduced to a couple lines and a cold period at the end. She'd sat on the edge of their bed holding her phone, pregnant and shaking, realizing he wasn't just leaving. He was rewriting history as he walked out. Now, standing backstage hearing Isabella's whisper, Camila finally understood the full design of the day. This wasn't a gig. It was a setup, a public display of power, a victory lap. Isabella wanted her ex-fiancé's pregnant black ex-wife on that stage as living proof of who lost and who won.
Humiliation packaged as entertainment for 300 elite guest politicians, business leaders, celebrities. Everybody important enough to make the photos matter. Everybody wired for gossip. Everybody with a phone ready to record. 5 minutes to go, Patricia called, rushing between vendors. Isabella demanded perfection the way some people demand air, and the entire staff moved like a system under pressure, afraid of one small failure cascading into a disaster. Camila rested a hand on her belly as the baby kicked hard, steady, like a tiny reminder that something real was happening inside her, even if the world outside was fake. "Easy, my love," she whispered. "Mom's got you." And that was the thing nobody in that hotel understood. Camila wasn't just surviving. She'd been building. While everyone assumed she was defeated pregnant, Abandoned, desperate for money, Camila had spent the last 3 months doing something else entirely. She'd been collecting truth the way a careful person collects evidence, quietly, systematically, and with purpose. She'd hired a private investigator. She'd followed paper trails. She'd listened when people slipped. And she'd learned that Isabella and David weren't just cruel, they were reckless. 2 hours before the ceremony, Isabella decided to personally train her singer, as if Camila needed instruction in how to do the job she'd been doing since she was a teenager. Isabella walked her to the back dressing room with a poisonous smile. "Camila, dear," she said, dragging out the name as if it tasted bad, "I want you to understand exactly how things work today." She gestured around the cramped space. "This is where you belong. Vendors, staff, not guests." Her friends laughed. Isabella circled Camila like a predator. "You'll sing the songs I chose in the key I determined, and you'll smile like you're the happiest person alive. Because today isn't about you. It's never been about you." Camila adjusted her dress, hands steady. "I understand," she said again, because she refused to give Isabella the satisfaction of seeing her break. Isabella turned to her friends, amused. "Look at her, pregnant, abandoned, singing at her ex-husband's wedding. If that's not pathetic, I don't know what is." One friend murmured something ugly about these kinds of women always trying to trap successful men. Camila didn't react. She didn't have to. Because while Isabella performed her cruelty, Camila's phone sat nearby with a voice recording app running quietly, capturing every word. Not for revenge theater, for documentation, for leverage, for later. Because Camila had learned the hard way, the truth only matters if you can prove it. The flashbacks came like punches. Camila at 23 in a small church, marrying David Rodriguez in a simple ceremony filled with real love. He was a novice accountant back then. She was a wedding singer, hustling for gigs. They lived in a tiny apartment, dreaming and building, the way young couples do when they still believe hard work is enough. Then David landed a job at the Stevens Company, Isabella's father's empire, and the shift happened gradually, like corrosion. Late nights, new clothes, criticism. "You should take better care of yourself," he'd say. "I move in different circles now." And when Camila got pregnant, instead of joy, David reacted with panic and rage. "This will ruin everything," he'd shouted. "Mr. Stevens will never accept me if he knows you're pregnant. He's too conservative. Too conservative for children, but not too conservative for adultery." Camila's suspicion became certainty when David finally admitted it. He'd proposed to Isabella weeks earlier. Expensive lawyers were already preparing the divorce, and Camila would be painted as unstable, desperate, a wife trying to trap a rising man with an inconvenient pregnancy. And it got worse because Camila's sister Rosa, a criminal defense attorney with a reputation for taking down powerful men who thought people, started digging. Rosa found forged signatures, forms filed without consent. A divorce process accelerated through fraudulent paperwork. Then Rosa found what David was really doing at the Stevens Company. Irregular financial reports, odd transfers, offshore structures, the kind of numbers that don't add up unless someone is laundering something. And while Isabella pranced around calling Camila pathetic, Camila was sitting in quiet rooms with Rosa and an investigator, turning humiliation into a case file. An hour before the ceremony, David showed up in the vendor dressing room. He looked expensive and terrified, the way people look when they've climbed a ladder built on lies and suddenly realize the ladder's on fire. "Camila, I need to talk to you," he said, closing the door. Camila kept warming up her voice like he wasn't there. "About hiring me to sing at your wedding while I'm pregnant with your child?" she asked sweetly. "Or about you telling Isabella we were never really married?" David's face drained. "How did you—" "Rosa's meticulous," Camila said, calm as a surgeon, "especially when she discovered you forged my signature on multiple registry forms." David's hands trembled. "Please," he whispered, glancing at the door, "if you say anything today, you'll ruin everything. The Stevens can destroy me. My job, my career." Camila smiled, but there was nothing soft in it. "Your career is built on lies and forged documents," she said. "And it's interesting you mentioned destruction, because Rosa also found irregularities in financial reports you signed for Mr. Stevens." David sank into a chair like the gravity finally caught up. "What do you want?" "Nothing you can give," Camila replied. "Your honesty came too late, and your money can't buy integrity." The door opened again, and Rosa walked in like judgment in a tailored suit, a leather briefcase in hand. She looked at David with professional coldness. "What a coincidence," she said. "I just sent some very interesting documents to federal investigators." David tried to bluff. "You're lying," but his voice cracked. Rosa opened the folder. Bank transfers, emails, meeting records. 3 years of evidence showing you helped hide $50 million through offshore accounts. She flipped a page with deliberate calm. And the best part? Isabella seems to know nothing. She's about to learn she didn't just marry a liar. She married a federal problem. David stood up, shaking. "You can't do this. You don't know who you're dealing with." Rosa's eyes narrowed. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A man who abandoned a pregnant wife, forged documents, and then hired her to sing at his wedding to humiliate her. You thought power meant you could rewrite reality." Camila placed a hand on Rosa's arm. "Let him go," she said softly. "There's a ceremony in 40 minutes. I still need to get ready." David stared at her like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. "Ready for what?" Camila blinked innocently. "To sing, of course. That's what I was hired for." Rosa's mouth curved into a small smile. "You always knew how to choose the right song at the right time." Camila nodded, eyes on her reflection. "Mom always said my gift was making people feel truths they tried to ignore." Rosa leaned in. "Once you start, there's no turning back." Camilla's expression hardened into certainty. "I'm done turning back." The ceremony began right at 5. 300 guests rose as the doors opened, and Isabella appeared in a dress so expensive it looked unreal, walking down the aisle like a victory parade. David stood at the altar, adjusting his tie too often, eyes darting, nervous sweat hiding under cologne. Camila took her place in the back corner of the stage, exactly where Isabella demanded, out of sight, out of mind. Ironically, it gave Camila the best view of everything. Official cameras, photographers, cell phones already lifted for social media. This was an audience engineered for maximum visibility. The officiant smiled. "We'll have a special song during the signing of vows." Camila stepped to the mic. "Thank you," she said. "This song is very special to me." David's eyes locked onto hers, panic. "It's called The Truth They Hid." Isabella's smile faltered. "That wasn't on the rehearsal list." Camila began to sing, and the room changed instantly. Her voice was clear, powerful, polished, but the lyrics weren't romantic. They were a confession wrapped in melody, delivered with the precision of a report. She sang about a marriage thrown away, a divorce rushed through fraud, signatures forged, and a pregnant wife abandoned. Gasps rippled. Isabella froze mid-aisle as if the floor shifted. David surged forward, shouting, "Stop," but security stepped in, quietly positioned exactly where Rosa would have planned. Camila kept singing, eyes moving from David to Isabella to the sea of guests. Then she hit the line that detonated the room. Money laundering, offshore accounts, hidden millions, tax fraud names, numbers, details. Not vague accusations, specifics.
The crowd erupted.
People stood up, phones shot into the air. Isabella screamed at David, makeup smearing as her perfect image broke in real time. "Is this true?" David tried to deny it, voice shaking. But guilt has a frequency people recognize. Rosa stepped onto the stage with a megaphone, calm and lethal. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rosa Rodriguez, criminal attorney. The evidence of marital fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering involving David Rodriguez and the Stevens family has already been submitted to federal authorities." She pointed into the crowd where Isabella's father tried to disappear. "Mr. Stevens, I suggest you don't leave." Isabella's world collapsed in a room full of witnesses. She turned on Camila, shaking. "You planned this." Camila stepped down, one hand supporting her belly, voice steady. "No, Isabella, I didn't destroy anything. I sang the truth. If the truth destroyed your wedding, you should question what you were marrying." David lunged toward Camila, furious. "You had no right." "So," Camilla's laugh was bitter. "You abandoned me pregnant. You forged my name. You lied. And you hired me to sing here to humiliate me. These are the consequences." Then the doors opened again, and federal agents entered with badges out. The lead agent approached David and Mr. Stevens. "You are under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and document forgery." Handcuffs clicked. Screams. Cameras. Isabella sobbing in a ruined dress. In minutes, the footage would spread across the country. A reporter shoved a mic toward Camila. How do you feel knowing your song exposed one of the biggest scandals of the year? Camila placed a hand on her belly as the baby kicked like applause from the only audience that mattered. She smiled, calm and free. I feel free, she said, for the first time in months. Completely free. 3 months later, Camila sat in a clean 2-bedroom apartment, breastfeeding her newborn daughter, Sophia, while the news recapped the fallout. David's sentence for fraud and forgery, Mr. Stevens for laundering tens of millions, the Stevens Corporation collapsing into bankruptcy. Rosa walked in with flowers like it was just another Tuesday. How's my favorite niece? She asked, kissing Sophia's head. Camila smiled. Strong, healthy, and I got an offer. Universal wants an album. The wedding video had crossed 100 million views. Offers flooded in TV, concerts, endorsements. But the most meaningful messages weren't from brands. They were from women. Betrayed wives, abandoned girlfriends, pregnant teens. People who'd been told to stay quiet, to accept shame. Camila became a voice for them. Not because she wanted fame, but because she learned pain can be repurposed into power when you refuse to let it rot inside you. Rosa set a magazine on the table with a photo of Isabella in plain clothes leaving a modest apartment building. The headline screamed about her fall. Assets confiscated, Rosa said. She lost everything. Camila shook her head. I don't take joy in that. I know what it's like to struggle. Rosa scoffed, but Camila held her ground. The real evil was David and her father. Isabella was cruel, yes, but she was also raised in a world where consequences didn't exist. Then Camila's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered and heard a voice she barely recognized. Camila, it's Isabella. The arrogance was gone. The tone was tired, humbled. I know I have no right to call, Isabella said, but I need to say, I was wrong. About everything. She admitted jealousy, admitted cruelty, admitted she confused superiority with security. Then she said something that made Camila's chest tighten. The FBI showed me evidence. David did this before. 2 other women. He got them pregnant and left. You weren't the first. Camila closed her eyes, feeling that strange ache of realizing the damage was even bigger than she'd imagined. Isabella kept talking, voice breaking. He was going to use me to launder more money in my name. After a few years, he would have trapped me in crimes and disappeared. Your music saved me from that, and I treated you like trash. She asked for forgiveness. Camila looked at Sophia sleeping in her arms and answered with a steadiness that came from choosing what kind of legacy her daughter would inherit. You already have it, Camila said. Not because what you did was okay, but because I won't carry anger like it's my job. Change your life, Isabella. That's the only apology that matters after the call. Rosa stared at her sister like she was witnessing something rare. How can you be that generous? Camila stroked Sophia's hair. Because strength without humanity is just another kind of cruelty. And I want my daughter to see that you can fight for justice without becoming bitter. 2 days later, Camila stepped into a studio and recorded her first official single, The Truth They Hid, now produced, polished, and climbing charts. But the moment that mattered most wasn't the numbers. It was a letter from a 17-year-old girl named Donna who wrote about being abandoned while pregnant, being called a trap, feeling worthless until she watched Camila stand in that ballroom and refuse to shrink. Donna wrote that she got legal help, told her family, discovered the boy had done it to others, and finally felt dignity return. Camila placed that letter into Sophia's album along with hundreds more like it because the story had become bigger than revenge. It became proof that humiliation can be converted into leverage, pain into purpose, betrayal into a foundation you build on instead of a grave you fall into. Months later, David's arrogance disintegrated behind federal walls. Mr. Stevens died with secrets and debts. Isabella inherited lawsuits and lessons money couldn't shield her from. And Camila, once treated as disposable, built a life so full of stability, love, and mission that the betrayal became a footnote, not a definition. On the night of her first sold-out solo performance, Camila looked out at the crowd and said, "This song is for every woman who's been told she wasn't enough by someone who didn't deserve her." The applause lasted so long it felt like the room itself was finally exhaling. And backstage afterward, Rosa hugged her and whispered, "You turned the worst betrayal into the best beginning." Camila glanced at Sophia's photo in her mirror and corrected her gently. "No, He tried to destroy me, but he ended up setting me free. Because the best revenge isn't burning down their house. It's building a life so strong, so bright, so purposeful that their cruelty can't reach you anymore, and using your voice to help other people climb out of the same darkness. If this story hit you, stick around, because there are more stories like this where the truth doesn't whisper, it sings.